Today we will be talking about managed identity. Yeah, we will be covering these topics: introduction of managed identity, pre-managed identity era, and how managed identity works, types of managed identities, setting up managed identity, using managed identity with Azure services, and best practices and security consideration and conclusion. These points we are going to talk about today. So, introduction to the managed identity. Uh, Basically, managed identity provides authentication between multiple Azure resources. Like when we have SQL Server, we have Azure SQL Server, Azure Blob Storage, uh, we have Azure Key Vault. In order to connect between these two, we can use the managed identity, and uh, with the use of managed identity, we can eliminate the credential management. Like we don't need to save the credentials in order to connect to the Azure resources. For instance, like connect to Key Vault, we generally need that client ID and client secret. Those details you need. Like if we set up the managed identity, we don't need those details. Like without storing these secrets in our application, we can easily connect to the resources. So by doing that, it will enhance the security, and also it will be easy way to connect to the Azure resources. If you see, like I can use the managed identities. These are the source resources and these are the target resources. In source resources, we can see app services, Azure functions, Azure containers, Azure storage. These are from these resources we can connect to this Azure Key Vault, Azure storage, Azure SQL. So pre-managed identity era. So before managed identity, we were facing few problems actually. Like we have to hard code the credential in our application, like API keys, connection string, and those things we need to hard code or we need to save it in environment variable or something. So that is a security vulnerability. Like those keys can be easily theft, and somebody can misuse those keys. So um, also operational complexity, like every key, like you guys ever like client secret will be keep on expiring, and we need to every time we need to generate a new client secret, and again we need to update the same client secret in application. So with the use of managed identity, it will automatically, like whenever the secret expires, it automatically generate the new secret, and it will use that new secret in order to connect to the Azure resources. So this is the code in order to connect to that Key Vault before managed identity. If you can see, we are using tenant ID, client secret in order to create the credentials, client credentials. So with the use of managed identity, we can eliminate these things. How managed identity works. So all the Azure resources are there in the cloud only. So if we can connect to that one Azure resource, and if we assign that necessary permissions to another resource, it will automatically enable that seamless transaction between the two resources. So authentication will be very easy, and no need to maintain any secrets. And secret rotation also, we don't need to worry about it. So in order to enable that managed identity in the portal.azure, we can go to that managed identity section over there. And here, if you see, this is they're talking about uh, system assigned managed identity. There are two types of managed identity that I will be covering in the next slide. So here in the app service, like in the app service, we have that option here, identity option. In the identity option, we are having this option to enable that system identity. There is a toggle button. I think there is a toggle button here, and we can switch on that. If we are using managed system assigned identity, we can enable it, and that identity, with the help of that identity, we can able to connect to that uh, resources. Whatever resources we are using, we will be able to connect. After creating the managed identity, we can assign permissions as well, necessary permissions in order to connect to that Azure resources. So it can be read or write. Those kind of permissions we can assign it here. We have to go to that managed identity section, or we have to go to the necessary resource group. Either it can be storage or SQL or key holder. There we have to go to this access control IAM and we can assign the necessary permissions there. So with the use of with the help of managed identity, this is the code. So if you see this code, we are not providing any client secret or client ID here. We are just using the new default Azure credentials, and it will automatically use that whatever the identity that is assigned to it. It will make use of it, and it will create that credentials, secret credentials. And with the help of secret client, we are able to retrieve the values from the keyword. Same thing we are using for connect to the storage account also. Here also, this code is for connecting to that blob storage and getting the files. What are the files we need? So here also we are using the new default Azure credential options, and here we are using that we are passing the user assigned managed identity client ID here. And with the help of this, we will be able to create that credential, and with that credential, we will be able to connect to the resource group. I think one slide is missing. I will cover that slide. There are two types of managed identity. Okay, one slide is missing. Okay, there are two types of managed identities basically. One is user assigned and one is system assigned managed identity. User assigned managed identity means we can create a managed identity and uh, we can we can connect to multiple resources with the help of the same managed identity. In this image, you can see for system assigned managed identity, the key will be attached to that Azure resource itself. But for user assigned identity, it will be detached from the resource. So with the help of one key, we can connect to multiple Azure resources. But here with the system assigned managed identity, we can only connect to that one particular resource only. And whenever we delete that particular resource, the key also will automatically get deleted. But here in user managed identity, user assigned managed identity, here if we delete the resource, uh, still the key, still that managed identity will be there. And if we want to connect to other resources with the help of this, we will be able to connect. So best practices and security considerations when we are using that managed identity, we have to assign the necessary permissions. Like instead of assigning all the permissions to that managed identity, only whatever the if it is a read access or something and only instead of assigning it to all the resources, only assign it to that necessary resources and necessary permissions. It is it will reduce that. It will be a best practice only. And regular review permissions. Periodically, we need to review that what are the permissions we are granting to that manager entity and com- uh, compliance and security. Monitor and log identity users. Uh, it is a best practice to logging the details like whenever we are connecting to the managed identity and how the connection is happening and is anyone misusing it. Those things, if we are logging it, then we will be able to identify the risks and misuses. So managed identity, it removes that hard coded credentials and it will make authentication very easy. Like I showed in the previous code, we only need to provide the uh, we only need to provide the client ID of that managed identity. Other than that, we don't need to provide any credentials. It will automatically connect to that resource. And also it enhances security because if we are removing the hard-coded keys and secrets, it will increase the security of that security of our application and Azure resources. And also it boosts efficiency because we are connecting to that resource Azure resources without instead of creating a new connection every time, like with the new authentication. We are just making use of existing authentication of that Azure Active Directory. This is about that managed identity. You guys have any questions?
Really? Well, I have one question.
Yes.
You just mentioned that there are two kinds of managed identity, the user created one and the system assigned one, right? So
Yes.
what are the advantages of using one or other?
Okay. User assigned identity, it is like one-to-many relation. We can create a managed identity and we can connect to multiple resources. But with the system assigned identity, it will be like one-to-one connection only. It will be the transaction will be one-to-one. We cannot connect to multiple resources with the help of this one. So the basic advantage of user assigned is like uh, it will reduce the number of keys we are creating. I will show you one more
Okay.
image that will help you. So here I'm having 4 virtual machines, and I created user identity here, and I created multiple user identities, 1 and 2. So here I'm assigning few permissions to like storage account and keyword. I'm assigning the permission to the user as one user identity, and another user identity I'm connecting to different storage account and keyword. So with this way, like this user identity I can be using in 2, 3, and 4, and this user identity I can use in 1 and 2. It depends. Like it will be more customizable. We can connect to any kind of resource and all. But
Okay,
system
got it.
identity, the virtual machine that is hosted in that Azure, in the same resource group only, it will be able to connect. Other than that, it will not be able to.
Okay,
We
thank
are
you.
dealing with multiple resources, then it is
Mhm.
user identity, user assigned identity is the best choice.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yeah, this is very very. Uh, this is like when you some long time ago when I was a network administrator. Yeah,
Mhm.
some access list in the routers we were configuring like this.
Okay.
Very interesting, really. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions like any questions like how we connect to that queue, uh, how we create the user assigned identity and all? So this one in this image you can see like here we can create the user assigned managed identity. We have to mention the resource subscription and resource group where we have that Azure resource, and here we can create we can give the name of the user assigned managed identity, and we can create it. So this is how we can create. The path is like in the services, so we can go to the managed identity and we can create the user assigned managed identity.
Mhm. So, guys, anyone else have questions or something? This is something that we have to deal with almost every day if we are working with Azure-based environments or infrastructures, because all the environments, I believe, will have to switch to this.
Recently, I also used this. We moved our configuration from web config file hard coded to the Azure
Mhm.
keywords. So I also use that. This is really very helpful actually. And we use a system identity. We are not use the user managed identity.
Yeah, because this basically reduce the risk on those credentials that are basically hard coded in code.
Yes.
Yeah, in this image, like we are we are assigning that system assigned managed identity. And if you see, there is a tab user assigned managed identity. If you go there and you can select whatever the user assigned managed identity you want to, like your application to access that particular identity. So
I believe
that
that
option will be here itself.
I believe that customization will be led regarding how many resources you have in your resource group. If you have too many resources, I don't know. One example could be you have DNAV. DNAV has several resources in the same resource group. So it will be a mess doing that using the system assigned. So best way will be to create your own hierarchy of permissions or something and assign that as user assigned.
Yes.
Okay, Freddy, thank you so much. I believe if there are no more questions, I believe we can stop the recording and finish the session for today. Thank you so much, man, for your time.